What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video here with the NFC North division breakdown. So let's get right into it. Looking at how the division performed last season, the Lions won the division with a record of 15-2, being the number one seed in the NFC, but losing in the divisional round of the playoffs, having the first round bye, so being a first round exit, as was the other two teams in the division that made the playoffs, the Vikings and the Packers. Vikings went 14-3, lost in the wild card round, and the Packers went 11-6 and also lost in the wild card round. And then lastly, the Bears, 5-12, missed the playoffs. Were not a particularly good team last season. Ended up really disappointing. I know there's a lot of optimism, but I think there's still things to feel good about this season for the Bears. But yeah, last season, I know they had a lot of hype winning the offseason yet again, and just not a great season overall. Looking at the individual team analyses, starting with the Detroit Lions, as you can see, a whole lot of green, and it's great. The three things on there that aren't, green, which for league rank signifies top 8, for division rank is first. They're in the second tier, and quarterback is definitely not a weakness of this team. Jared Goff, I think, is incredible. I have him as my rank 9 quarterback in the NFL, which I do believe is borderline elite, just kind of outside that upper echelon of guys. I think definitely the best quarterback in the division, best running back room in the division, arguably in the league. Jahmyr Gibbs is incredible, having David Montgomery in that room as well. Sonic and Knuckles, an insane duo. It was really, really incredible to see this offense at work last season. Wide receiver core, I really like Amon-Ra St. Brown is great. I love Jameson Williams, and I really like Tim Patrick as their wide receiver 3. I think it's an incredible group. The only reason I have them at second in the division is they're in a division with the Vikings, who have arguably the best wide receiver core in the league. Tight end, Sam Laporta, I think he's a top 5 tight end in the league. Just more firepower on this offense. And to top it all off, I believe they have a top 5 offensive line in the league. You do have Frank Ragnow retiring this offseason, which is a blow, losing him at center. But I do think the rest of the line is still strong, and I think they're going to be able to overcome that. The biggest concern I would have with the offense, and really the only concern, is obviously losing your offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson. And it's always interesting when teams lose coordinators, and the Lions did lose both their offensive and defensive coordinator. Looking at, on paper, the roster talent-wise, this team is stacked. We'll see how the loss of coordinators impacts the team. Sometimes that can, really hold a team back. Saw the Eagles 2 seasons ago, the year after we lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs, lost both our coordinators, and really underperformed the next season. Had to fire those 2 guys, and then we found 2 better coordinators and won the Super Bowl the next season. So yeah, it can really go either way. From a talent perspective, this offense is still one of, if not the best in the league, and I am not going to just assume that the coordinator is going to bring it down. I think that there might be less trick plays, but I think Dan Campbell is still going to be very aggressive. I think he's still going to want to be creative, and I think this Lions offense is still going to be very fun. On the defensive side of the ball, I think this is one of the best defenses in the league. You have to remember last season it was really bad because it was really injured. It's going to be much improved just from people returning from injury. I think that their pass rush, led by Aiden Hutchinson, should be very good, assuming everyone stays healthy. Gotta pray for that. And then the secondary is also incredible. Arguably the best safety duo in the league with Herbie Joseph and Brian Branch. You could argue the Ravens are up there as well. But yeah, really incredible safety duo. You bring in DJ Reed at corner for the Jets. You hope to get some development out of Terrion Arnold. Overall, just there's a lot of good things I can say about the Lions. I have them as my number 2 ranked team in the league just based on roster talent, and I expect them to pretty much repeat what they did last season in terms of performance. I don't know if they're going to get to 15 wins. That was very high, but I do think that they will be dominant and that teams will fear the Lions. Moving on to the Minnesota Vikings, this is a very, very interesting team, and I think a team that has an incredibly high ceiling and I think a safe floor just because of the talent that is there. Obviously, starting off with quarterback, I have J.J. McCarthy ranked at 28. That is just because, as I said with Michael Penix Jr. in my previous video, we haven't seen any of J.J. McCarthy. Michael Penix Jr., we have at least seen some of his play in the NFL, and he's looked very good. J.J. McCarthy, he has not played in the NFL at all. I am very optimistic. I think he can be a good quarterback, but we don't know it yet, and I can't rank him that high just yet. So I know the ranking is very low, but that's definitely room to improve there, and I fully expect him to be a lot better than that ranking. Running back, I do like the pickup of Jordan Mason at RB2, and I like Aaron Jones as well. He is aging, but I think he's still a threat. I don't think their run game is going to be really what they're built around, but I do think they will be able to run well with that duo. Really, the threat of this team is going to be the receiving weapons. As I mentioned earlier, the Vikings maybe have one of the best receiver cores in the league. I have them at rank 3. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison is an insane duo. Justin Jefferson, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Really just has been on a historic pace so far throughout his career. And him and Addison and TJ Hawkinson at tight end, who I have at rank 7 in the league, are going to be incredible weapons for JJ McCarthy and really just putting him in the best position to succeed. And I think my thought process is obviously last season the Vikings were incredible with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold looked incredible. And before that, Sam Darnold was a bust. I mean, he was not good. And maybe he went to the Vikings and he just played better because he was, the quarterback that he was drafted as that top pick. And he had that talent there. But a part of me is also feeling that this system, the Kevin O'Connell Vikings team, and the talent around him really elevated his play. And if that's the case, if J.J. McCarthy is the level that Sam Darnold was before he went to the Vikings, him coming to the Vikings can lead to a 14-win season because that's what happened before. Obviously, is it as easy as that? No. But if J.J. McCarthy comes in and is good, the ceiling for this team is crazy. Because saying that J.J. McCarthy is better than Sam Darnold doesn't seem like a crazy statement. If we ignore Sam Darnold's last season, which I know it's a very good season to ignore, that's not hard to beat. And really, the biggest weakness for the Vikings that really emerged at the end of last season and into the playoffs was the offensive line that really got Darnold destroyed in that Week 18 game and in that wild card game. The offensive line was a real weak point, and I think they improved it a lot. They kind of just stole the Colts' entire interior offensive line, and I think that they now have one of the best offensive lines in the league, and I think that offense is going to be very high-powered. I think if J.J. McCarthy is even a half-decent quarterback, this will be a double-digit win team. I think this will be a playoff team. If he is a good quarterback, this is going to be an incredibly high ceiling. If he is very bad, maybe they, can miss the playoffs. But I think that there is a high floor built in just with, this stacked offense. And yeah, I'm very excited to see how that goes and how McCarthy plays in the system. Focusing on the defense, it's not obviously as flashy as the offense. I think the front seven is pretty solid. I think the secondary is more of a weakness, but I wouldn't be too concerned about the defense overall. I don't think it's going to hold them back too much. Moving on to the Green Bay Packers, I have them ranked at 14. I don't know if I mentioned it before. I had the Vikings ranked at 13, so one spot behind the Vikings. I do expect it to be very close between specifically the Vikings, Packers, and Bears. I do think the Lions are the clear-cut favorite in this division, but the other three I do have ranked very close together. Looking at the Packers here, going down the list, I do have Jordan Love ranked as my 13th best quarterback in the league, which some people might think that is low, and I can understand it. I know Jordan Love gets a lot of hype, and I like Jordan Love. I don't know if I would call him an elite quarterback. I don't know if he's one of these top 10 guys just yet. I have him comparable to C.J. Stroud, Tua, and Bo Nix, Dak Prescott in my rankings. That's kind of that like just outside top 10 to 15 range. I still think he's good. I know that seeing the 13 rank might seem a little low to people, so just wanted to kind of explain that. At running back, I think Josh Jacobs kind of flies under the radar as one of the better backs in the league, and he really had a breakout late in his tenure with the Raiders and has carried that over into Green Bay as being just a really reliable, good bell cow running back. And I think he's really a strength of this offense. And yeah, I feel like he just kind of flies under the radar of one of the better backs in the league. So I do expect him to um, continue to be a real asset and to have that strong run game to lean on. I think is going to be very good because I don't know how successful the passing game is going to be. Obviously, I think Jordan Love is a good quarterback, as I mentioned earlier, but I still do have a lot of concerns with this receiver core. You do draft Matthew Golden in the first round. You hope he can be your wide receiver one. Because aside from him, it's really a lot of not great in the wide receiver room. Romeo Dobbs has been okay for you. Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks. It's a lot of guys who have not been able to stay healthy. It's a lot of guys who have not cemented themselves as clear cut wide receiver ones. So, um, and Jaden Reed, obviously, who kind of is that wide receiver one. Like he plays that role for the team, but he is kind of more suited as a wide receiver two, in my opinion. So you hope that Matthew Golden can step in and be that top guy for them. We just haven't seen it yet, so I can't rank them that high. But obviously, if he is, I do think that will definitely help. And it does also help that you have a good tight end in Tucker Craft. You also have Luke Musgrave there. He hasn't done much. He's dealt with injury. Tucker Craft, though, is, I think, a very solid tight end to have. And he will definitely be an added bonus in that passing attack. I think the offensive line is pretty decent. I have them ranked 12. That is last in terms of in the division, but I do think it is still good. I think it is definitely going to help. Definitely help out Josh Jacobs in that run game, giving Jordan Love time, giving these receivers more time to get open. I do think the offense for the Packers will be good. I'm not too concerned about it. I don't think it's going to be anything super flashy. I think it's going to be a good offense, not a great offense, but that can win you games in this league. And I think it's well rounded, and that is definitely important. The defense is definitely where I have more concerns. Specifically, the secondary, I think, is one of the worst secondaries in the league. You lose Jair Alexander. Kind of knew that was going to happen, but it's still a big loss. Obviously, you never really, not never really had him, but it's been a lot of not having him back there just with injury, but it is still a loss considering your starting corners now are Keyshawn Nixon, who is mostly a return man, and Carrington Valentine, who was a late round pick last year. You did pick up Nate Hobbs to play in the slot. It's okay. Really, the only thing keeping this secondary from being at the very bottom is that you have Xavier McKinney at safety, who is one of the better safeties in the league. But aside from him, it really is not a great group, and I am very concerned about how this defense is going to perform. The front seven, I think, is okay. I don't think it's anything great. You hope to have, breakout seasons from Lucas Van Ness and Devontae Wyatt. Hope Rashawn Gary can kind of be what you want him to be. Quay Walker, Edrin Cooper, just a lot of guys that you hope you can get more out of. I think there's a lot of potential for this defensive front seven. We just have to see it. But I do think the secondary is going to be a major, major problem. And I can see that definitely holding them back. Looking at the last team, the Chicago Bears. Another team that I think this season can really go either way for, either good or bad. It's really going to hinge on if Caleb Williams develops into what he was drafted to be, the franchise guy, the generational type of quarterback that he was hyped up to be, that he really was not last year. He showed some flashes, and you got to hope he can build on that. I have him ranked at 21 going into the season. I will say if he plays like the 21 or the 21st best quarterback in the league this year, that will be a major disappointment. I do expect him to develop and grow and be better than this. And I think the Bears really need him to be better than that. Um, and he does have the pieces around him. He has the weapons. The running game, I don't know how good it's going to be. You have DeAndre Swift there, who I like as a back. I just don't know if it at this point in his career if he's going to be that top tier explosive kind of guy. I have them as the 27th best rushing attack or running back group. Um, it's just nothing too exciting, but it is serviceable. I wouldn't say, you know, it's a major weak point and, they're missing, like they need a big running back. I think it is will do. But looking at their wide receivers and tight ends, I think these are both incredible position groups to set Caleb Williams up for success. The wide receiver room, obviously you don't have Keenan Allen anymore, but you do still have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and you drafted Luther Burden. Bringing in Olamide Zaccheaus, I also like as your wide receiver 4. Devin Duvernay is in there as well. I think you have some good depth, and I like the upside of Burden. I hope that Odunze can continue to develop, and DJ Moore is already kind of a proven guy in this league. I think this is a very good group of wide receivers. And then at tight end, you already have Cole Kmet, who is proven to be a solid option, and you draft Colston Loveland in the first round, and that can definitely turn into having a very good 2 tight end set with potentially, a top tight end in the league in a first round top 10 NFL draft pick. So very exciting things out of this passing offense, really giving Caleb Williams all the opportunities, and not to mention a completely overhauled offensive line, which I have now ranked 8th. I think this is one of the better units in the league. I think that's going to be a massive boost to this offense. Really going to help Caleb Williams kind of get comfortable with, having time to throw the ball, get the ball to these weapons. And I think if he's able to, it's going to be a lot for defenses to try and stop. So when Caleb Williams starts clicking with these guys, I think the Bears will definitely be very strong on offense. It's just going to be, can Caleb Williams develop? Can Rome Odunze continue to develop? Will Luther Burden, will he pan out? Is Colston Loveland going to pan out? It's a lot of maybes, but if things go right for the Bears, I think this could be a season where they do actually perform very well. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, I think the secondary is good. I have it as a top 10 unit. I do really like Jalen Johnson at corner. You also have Tyreek Stevenson and Kyler Gordon, who are a pair of young corners. Kyler Gordon playing the slot. You hope for continued development from them. And then at safety, Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard. Kevin Byard at this point, not what he used to be, definitely past his prime, but is a solid option back there, I guess. And then the front 7, it's not great. Montez Sweat is probably your best edge player. It's just really underwhelming across the board. So I don't think their defense is going to be, a key contributor in their success, but I think for the Bears, this season is more about showing that you have improved. I think if you can get to 9 or 10 wins and, see that Caleb Williams is the guy and have faith in this offense being one of the better units in the league, I think that is what you need to see as a Bears fan, and I think that would be a successful season for the Bears, and I think that is definitely possible with the roster they have right now. I don't know if they're contending for a playoff run, but I definitely think that they can show flashes of being a good team, and they might just be a season or 2 away. Looking at my projections for each team, with the estimated win total, expected division rank, and playoff chance, I will say, as I've said every video, estimated win total, this is not a projected record, because obviously these records would be impossible. This is how many wins I think the team can get as like a range. Starting with the Lions, as I said, I think that they are going to still be a dominant team. I don't see, the loss of their coordinators really impacting them that much because the roster talent is incredible. I think they're definitely a double-digit win team. I think they're definitely still a playoff team. I could see them winning, honestly, 11 plus. It's unlikely that they repeat 15-win seasons, a 16-win season, and even 17 is highly unlikely, so I capped that ceiling at 14. Would it shock me if they went higher? Not really. I think they have the talent to do that, but I do think, they will be one of the they will be contending for the number one seed again, for sure. It is a tough division, a very tough division, and that will obviously have more built-in losses there. But I think the Lions will definitely be very good. Expected division rank one. I think it's very close between the other three teams, but I think the Lions are definitely the clear-cut favorite as of right now. And yeah, 95% chance of the playoffs. Might as well make that 100, but you can't guarantee anything, especially not in the NFL. But yes, I am very confident in saying that the Lions will be a playoff team. They will be one of the best teams in the league. The Vikings, I think, compared to the Packers, lower floor, higher ceiling, really just depends on if JJ McCarthy is good. If JJ McCarthy is a good quarterback, this Vikings team is going to be scary. That's where, that 13 win ceiling is. I don't expect them to finish ahead of the Lions, but I think, if things break right, I think it's possible. But I also think there's a world where, JJ McCarthy struggles in his first season as a starter, which would not be, shocking. We see quarterbacks in their first season struggle all the time. Not everyone is Patrick Mahomes. Um, but he is in a great situation. So either way, I think it's possible. Also, sorry if I misspoke earlier and said 8 wins as their floor. I have it at 7. Yeah, if he might need another year to develop and they could have a disappointing season, it's possible. Um, I have a 50% playoff chance. It really just depends on JJ McCarthy. So I feel like I've rambled on the Vikings for too long, so I'm going to move on to the Packers. Um, 8 win floor. I think that they're a solid to good, well-rounded team, at least on offense. The defense, I have some concerns, but I think they have a pretty safe floor built in there. Um, I do think that they will finish behind the Vikings because I do expect JJ McCarthy to play at least good enough to have them contending for the playoffs because, I mean, we saw what Sam Darnold did, and I don't want to keep going back to Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold was not a good quarterback before last season, and the Vikings won 14 games with him. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to keep talking about the Vikings. Um, Packers, I think their ceiling is probably about what they did last year, 11 wins. Again, it's a tough division, so it's going to be tough to win a lot of games. And the Packers, I just don't know if they have that upper echelon of roster talent to hit that, 12 plus win mark. But I do still think that they will be a team that is going to be contending for the playoffs. I have it as about a 50% chance. Again, those wild card spots don't go up for grabs easily. And, if the Lions are going to win the division, if the Vikings are going to be vying for that spot, the Bears are going to be vying for that spot, the Commanders are going to be vying for that spot, if the Falcons even, or the Cardinals, or the 49ers, or the Rams, or the Seahawks, there's going to be a lot of teams kind of in that range. And so that's why, even if you win 9, 10 games, that doesn't guarantee you a playoff spot. So 50% chance. I do expect them to finish behind the Vikings. And lastly, the Chicago Bears. Lowest floor because you could see things just kind of go how they did last season. A lot of potential there, a lot of expectations, and it really just kind of all fell apart. Last season, they only won 5 games. I do think, especially with the improvements to the offensive line, that floor is higher. I think that anything under 7 wins that would suggest serious issues. Obviously, not considering injury in these projections. Even in a ceiling scenario compared to the other teams, I don't expect them to finish super high in this division. I do have them expected to finish last. I think they have the lowest chance to make the playoffs, although comparable to the Vikings and Packers. Again, I think these three teams are very close, but I do think the Bears are definitely the lowest team because they have the most unknowns. They they still need to find out if Caleb Williams is the guy, which I do think he is going to be. You have a lot of young players that you got to see how it works out, and then obviously the defense is not going to be carrying you to any victories. I don't think. But yeah, that is my breakdown for the NFC North. If you have any thoughts, agreements, disagreements, things I missed, things you have questions about, want me to explain, feel free to leave a comment. I will do my best to respond to everything, explain my reasoning for things if anything wasn't clear. And yeah, really appreciate you guys for watching the video, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.